I should preface this video by saying I thought Eternals as a movie was okay. Some parts of it I liked and I thought the effects were cool, but I acknowledge it was a bit of a slog and it could have used its time more wisely in developing the characters. What parts were good about it were good, but this may have far-reaching implications for Marvel. Eternals seems like a transition in Marvel's release strategy post-Infinity Saga, and its performance may carry hints for things to come. Marvel was set for a big comeback in 2021 as theaters reopened. In some respects it worked, but in other areas, not so much. Eternals is the worst performing MCU film critically, and on a certain level commercially as well. The B Cinema score and 42 on Metacritic are franchise lows on both sites, and the audiences seem to respond in kind. While it did make $402 million worldwide, the budget was $200 million, so the film barely broke even in Hollywood terms. This makes Eternals, if not the MCU's biggest flop, perhaps its most high profile. This is not meant to be a discussion of its failure, but rather the circumstances around its creation, the before and after of Eternals. Out of story, the MCU dealt with the whole Inhumans drama in 2017. Ike Perlmutter tried to force the Inhumans as a movie, then as a TV series when Marvel became a Disney film subsidiary just so he could compete with X-Men. And when the miniseries failed, a new project from the canceled movie was born of it. Jack Kirby's Eternals focuses on the extraterrestrial beings who engineered the Inhumans to prepare for their space war. The mythic names and ancient alien subtext fueling the more cosmic aspect of the story. Perhaps this would be the way to make reference to Inhumans without actually using them. While Inhumans was not retcon per se, this is the setup for how it would all go down and perhaps would have been foreshadowed in the Inhumans movie. The problem is it requires too much knowledge of an obscure part of the story to appreciate. Casual fans may not know who these characters are, their significance, or have reasons to be invested. Having a major movie about them with little build-up or foreshadowing would be confusing. Director Chloe Zhao tries her best, but the movie feels a bit overstuffed. With 10 essential Eternals, each with their own subplots and arcs, as well as a major cosmic destruction plotline and countless tangents, this movie packs its 2 hours 40 minutes to the brim. So much happens it may be hard to keep track of it all, and villain Arishem feels out of nowhere as his plotline appears late. The plot threads on their own are fine, and each one could have been its own movie, but it can be easy to get lost. The long runtime combined with the excess of detail may have been the biggest turnoff for Eternals, and why fans did not feel the desire to commit to it. And the sad thing is, these are not bad characters. The film develops a few of them, making the most time for the arcs of various Eternals. Cersei and Icarus get the most development, and their conflict of interest is all right to drive the plot, even if their ultimate conflict of intervention versus passivity is not quite resolved. Others, like Angelina Jolie's Thena, feel a bit wasted, but at least look striking on camera, though the character who may be the most interesting is Phastos. He is present for the atomic bomb and is the only one with the burden to bear for having overseen it. While he only shows up halfway through, it is through his torment and anguish we feel for him and his little screen time which drives the story. He should have been the main character. The bottom line with Eternals is many of the elements are fine on their own, but as a whole seem unsatisfying. With the end of the Infinity Saga, the dam for Marvel weirdness has busted wide open. Any story can be told. Any tale can be given power on the big screen. Things may be building up to Secret Wars later, but in the meantime, anything goes. Marvel is attempting to mine their most obscure properties, and Eternals was a valiant push, but perhaps too much to try this early on. In many respects, this can serve as an apologia for Inhumans with the lore and business ties, but the large ensemble cast makes it unsuited for a major blockbuster. The gamble may have paid off for a new Avengers-style setting, but it may have worked better if they introduced one Eternal at a time and then culminated this movie about 3 years down the road. Just as with Inhumans, the problems all trace back to the Perlmutter model. Perlmutter was all about the bottom line. He put marketing and probability under storytelling. Remember, this was the person who believed Black Panther would not sell because of his relative obscurity. Transitioning away from Perlmutter may have been a saving grace for the MCU. It allowed for more risks, more new ideas, and mining every aspect of the comics to help influence their story. While it may not always pay off, at least they have the freedom to try it now. This is admirable. Eternals may have never happened if Marvel did not unite with Disney. Eternals was always going to be a hard sell, and Marvel took a gamble in making it. Unfortunately, some gambles do not pay off. If they're looking to make Marvel's a blockbuster, or even try their hand at Fantastic Four, Marvel needs to be less concerned with origin stories and more about telling a focused, cohesive standalone story using the characters they have. Eternals served as a litmus test for how they can push the envelope with genre and scope. The lack of hype for a sequel and low box office suggested where the franchise would go with those ideas. Maybe a movie was not the best route for Eternals with its large ensemble cast and many subplots. On Disney Plus, Marvel is going psychedelic with hits like WandaVision and Loki, and is even pushing more obscure characters like Moon Knight. Many of these shows have found success because they handled those stories with precision and tact. It is through streaming and serialization where the MCU's biggest risks are being taken. Perhaps Eternals could have worked in that capacity instead. Nonetheless, Eternals gets an A for effort, but falters a bit in execution. Well-intentioned, but overall underwhelming, and perhaps an indicator of how Marvel may be overstretching itself. I'm enthusiastic to see whatever deep cuts may come from Marvel's filmography, but maybe they could try toning it down a bit next time.